My guest today is Ben Tegeler. Ben is the Executive Director of Ozarks Greenways. He oversees over 110 miles of trails inside and outside the city of Springfield. Long-term plans call for extending the trail system maybe another 100 miles. Ben's here to tell us today about the projects that are on the drawing board, what's coming up soon and what's in the future, and maybe some of the challenges that are facing the city. Ben, welcome to In Our Town.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. So if you were visiting with somebody at the airport and they asked you what you do and you said, well, I'm director of Ozarks Greenways, they'd say, well, what's that? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I'd tell them that our biggest, we're the biggest supporter of trails in the region. We're advocates. We're going after funding, construction dollars, engineering. We're trying to connect new trails, and our mission is very simple. It's a community connected by trails, and every decision we make is laser focused through that under the leadership of myself. So.
Now, that's Ozark Greenways, I think, was founded in 1991.
Correct.
And what was it like in those days?
Well, I was 2 years old at that time, but it started as Project Parkway, as a linear park, and more of the landscaping and connectivity of getting some paths through the city and connecting people to nature, and then that kind of exploded into the major network we have now, but a small group of citizens getting together and formalizing as Project Parkway has evolved into Ozark Greenways Incorporated.
Am I right on my math? There's about, 110 miles of trails right now?
Yeah, it depends who you talk to. Every city and the county and everybody's got a little different number, but Ozark Greenways kind of has 110 miles inside the limits, and that's counting the Frisco Highline Trail, which is about 34 miles, and the Fellows Lake soft surface trails out at Fellows Lake, the CU property, which is about 30 miles of mountain bike trails as well.
Excuse me a second, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
You can go ahead.
Well, I myself enjoy them. I have a bicycle, and my age, you don't jog anymore. It's too hard on your knees. But I've ridden a lot of it and really enjoy it. But sometimes I think I get at the end of South Creek, and I want to get over Wilson's Creek, and it's not as smooth as I would like to see it be. And that's not the only place. It's a beautiful greenway. I love the paths and all that. But what about linking? Let's just pulling that one out of the air, Wilson's Creek with South Creek. What are the challenges that you face in doing that?
Well, that's a great segment, because you're talking about from 1991 and 1993 there was a South Creek Greenway plan, which had that connecting to Wilson's Creek. So 30 years in the making. We're excited to announce that we'll be connecting that gap this year from South Creek to Wilson. It's a 0.49 mile gap that's been a pesky gap for a long time.
So I don't have to get up on Battlefield anymore.
Correct. You'll go directly from South Creek all the way from the Battlefield Mall all the way over to Wilson's Creek under West Bypass. So no more Battlefield intersection anymore, and that is funded in partnership with OTO. And they have transportation alternative program funds that we secured. And the city of Springfield secured the easement a few years ago, and like I said, this has been a gap for 30 years. So we're excited to move forward with that gap.
When do you think it'll be open?
I hope summer of 26. Currently we're wrapping up final engineering and moving forward with construction bids, hopefully in the end of 2025.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. I just pulled that one out of the air.
Yeah, we've been busy. So a top 10 initiative in Forward SGF, the city's comprehensive plan, is on gapping the map and taking it. We've got all these pesky gaps where you can ride A to B, and they're very linear. We want to see some cohesiveness and connection. So with that South Creek to Wilson's Creek gap, we'll be connecting that 0.49 miles. But also with the city's RAISE grant that's connecting 3.14 miles, we'll have about 27 miles continuous loop all the way around Wilson's Creek connecting back to Jordan Creek, connecting to downtown. And so a lot of cohesiveness in a very short amount of time.
So what's the time frame for completing that stretch?
So the RAISE grant has a little more time. Funds have to be obligated by September of 2028, but we would like to move forward in partnership with the city as soon as possible to get those out the door. With the change in administration, there's been some hiccups and some
Yeah, you had to
pauses.
go back and rewrite your grant, didn't you?
We didn't have to go fully rewrite, but we certainly had to look at things with a different lens. And there's still not an official grant agreement that the city has signed, but it seems like we're moving forward, and there's light at the end of the tunnel.
So let me ask you, what are the, you say this particular linkage has been on the drawing board for 30 years.
Yes.
What are the issues and hurdles that Ozark Greenways faces when they try to do something like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are in a very property rights driven area of the country, and some trails are valuable. Trails add a lot of benefit to the community, but people are very protective of their private property, and rightly so. So getting easements, getting dedicated pathways that goes through private property. We could have 100 properties, and it just takes one to curtail a trail project or making you pivot and adapt. So that is a huge challenge always, is building good relationships, partnerships with community members, private landowners, and landholders to gain access to the Ozarks and make it a community asset and kind of open that up. Funding's always a great concern. Regulatory concerns of environmental and dealing with riparian zones and watersheds. There's all sorts of layers, but first and foremost, it's can we get an easement? And that's where everything starts.
So I was going to ask this a little later in the interview, but I'll ask it now because I think it relates to what you just said. Does Ozark Greenways own these trails?
It depends. Some of the trails we do own under our ownership. Some of them we have easements on, or some of them we've attained ownership of the property or attained an easement and then dedicated that to the Springfield-Greene County Park Board or other entity.
Well, the reason I ask, because if you're just an ordinary not-for-profit, you don't have the rights of eminent domain, like
Correct.
the city would if they needed to extend a road somewhere or a sewer line or something like that. So can Ozark Greenways avail itself to eminent domain?
No, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We don't have the rules of the state or a municipality in that way. So,
But you could ask the park board or the city on behalf of the park board to use those rights of eminent domain, but has that ever been done?
not for a trail, and I think that's a political
They just don't want to go there.
ball of yarn that most municipalities are not using that tool. I think we've tried that tool recently with the Renew Jordan Creek project and the Hotel of Terror, and there's certain things where the community pushes back, and that's a tool that's not being used very much in municipalities' toolbox anymore. We would have to negotiate and use relationship and
Well, I certainly understand both sides of that issue, on the one hand, property rights are a big deal, particularly in our part of the world, but unfortunately allows somebody to hold up a whole project or to insist on a payment that's probably many times worth what a 100-yard stretch of trail's worth.
Yeah, and that's a challenge that we face, and you've got to navigate those sensitive topics, and sometimes it's easier to respect that landowner's wish and find an alternative route. I don't think we have the political will currently in our climate to eminent domain and take possession of someone's property.
Okay, but that also, you have a connected issue, and let's talk about, what do you call it, the Chadwick Flyer Trail?
Yeah, Chadwick Flyer.
Okay, so as I understand it, and if you think the federal government can be hard to deal with. Try dealing with the railroads.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been in business for 200 years, and they've
Yes.
heard it all. And but these, my research indicated that a railroad may have a trail that goes 30 miles or somewhere. Let's just say from Springfield down to Chadwick or something like that. But part of the railroad track they may own. The other part they just have an easement on, right? I mean, no, I don't know about this particular one, but I mean, generally that can happen that way.
My understanding of everything I've dealt with is that they usually own the entire corridor.
Okay.
They don't function on easements. They function on deeded property, and they may have taken that by force with eminent domain, or they may have purchased it fee simple back in 1876. Or
Well, the reason that I bring it up is that there are some federal rules, and maybe you can speak to these. When the railroad company may come to whatever federal agency oversees them and say, we want to abandon this thing because it costs too much we're not using it anymore, we don't want to maintain it. And but they can do that, but then the landowners have it ends up being a taking frequently under the constitutions, so that the landowners have a right for compensation, but they have to. There was some presentation by a law firm called Lewis and Rice here in Springfield about a year ago, I think, on this. But they will then. These lawyers will get all those landowners together, and they will go to the government, the federal government, and ask to be compensated, right? But at the end of the day, Ozark Greenways will end up with the trails. Tell me to what extent that's how it plays out.
yes, this is a very complex issue, and it is very dependent on multiple variables. So the Frisco Highline Trail from North Springfield all the way up to Bolivar is a rail property that was abandoned, and the federal agency is the Surface Transportation Board,
Okay.
which was legislation passed on, I believe, 1984 or somewhere around there. I'm still learning all these things, but from what I know is that if you go through that act, that's where the rail banking, that's a official federal legislation of the railroad abandons it, and that's the process. The Chadwick Flyer is not that process. The
Okay.
railroad owns the parcel, and they're selling it as a fee simple, or that it's property. It's not being abandoned. It's being sold. So it's not being
to Ozark Greenways.
It's not. It's still under negotiation.
Oh.
It would be sold to the city of Springfield, is my understanding.
Oh, okay.
So it's a negotiation, but it's sold as a real estate transaction rather than going through the federal process of rail banking.
So you don't have to deal with all those regulations then.
That's my understanding. Yes, and Ozark Greenways has purchased property from the railroad with help from counties of buying the property. So now they're in our names, but they're not under the Surface Transportation Act or the Rail Banking Act.
Well, that's a very exciting trail to me.
Yes. Yeah.
All the way from Sequoia Park. Is that
It's from Sunshine all the way to the city of Ozark.
And there are some gaps there that need to get filled. And what are the gaps, and what do you have to do to fill those?
Yeah, there's not many gaps.
You got to get across the river.
Yes, so that's all under engineering right now. The city received ARPA funding, and Ozark Greenways was a recipient to do final engineering for the entire section from Springfield, Lake Springfield, and Kissick all the way to Sunshine. So Ozark Greenways is stewarding that project and engineering and working with CMT and the city of Springfield and multiple other partners.
Okay.
That's under process, and all those bridges crossing the river are embedded in that. And so the big hang up there is acquiring the actual property, the city of Springfield, because it's still owned by BNSF, so we can't move until the acquisition is complete. On the south side, Ozark has been very busy. The city of Ozarks, and kudos to them for prioritizing this, and to Ozark Transportation Organization for prioritizing this regional trail
So the Springfield will more or less own it to the county line, and then Ozark the other way? Is
The
that how
Greene
you
County
put-
Springfield Park Board owns it to Christian County line, and then we own some parcels. Ozark Greenways owns parcels currently, almost to CC. We've got, and then there's 3 parcels left, from my understanding, in the entire gap that we've only got 3 more acquisitions or easements to go.
So can people go up and down that abandoned railroad track now, even though it's parts of it are still owned by the railroad?
I don't think anything is left owned by the railroad. Ozark Greenway has bought the corridors that were the last remnants of the railroad, is my understanding.
Okay, I misunderstood then. I thought you said you were still in negotiations with the railroad.
The city of Springfield is still in negotiations on the Greene County section. So I've moved into Christian County, and the conversation of that Ozark Greenways has acquired a few of the old corridor.
Okay.
Yes.
So what, I mean, I know these things get moved around and so forth, but what's the time frame for completing this?
That's a funny, it all depends on the acquisition of the Springfield corridor, the Greene County from Kissick to Sunshine. And I've been told it could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years. So I don't have a great answer for that. We're hopeful that we can find, and that's a city negotiation thing that we're not necessarily a part of, but the connection to Ozark. So Kissick South is constructed. OTO built that trail all the way to the county line. And that's just an in and out trail like we talked about earlier. And then we've just acquired the property south of that. So we may be able to start at Kissick and get to the boat, from the boathouse down to the city of Ozark in the next few years. It's the properties going north to Sunshine there's still some questions on time frame. Hopefully soon.
What are people who live in Springfield and Greene County, what trails do they seem to enjoy the most or use the most?
Most of our counts, OTO does a lot of counts on the trails, and Galloway is the clear most utilized trail. The most people, the most diversity of strollers and walkers and wheelchairs and bikes and rollerblades and scooters and anything.
Well, there's so many
joggers and
people
runners.
that just live in the area. It's just so easy to walk out your front door and get on the trail.
And it's heavily utilized. You've got Sequoia Park. You've got the Galloway kind of mixed-use hub down there with breweries and restaurants and offices, and there's activity centers down there, and then connecting down to the James River. There's a lot of value, but also it's so heavily utilized. That's why the Chadwick going adjacent to it up to Sunshine gives you a little more breathing room.
What are the? Tell me about what's happening up at Fellows Lake.
Yeah, Fellows Lake's super exciting. We've got about 30 miles of mountain bike trails out there that Ozark Greenway we maintain and are the stewards of that.
So those are dirt paths.
Those are single track dirt paths, yeah, for lack of a better word. Usually for mountain biking, hiking, running. We have that mountain bike community of very soft single track flowy trails is how I would consider Fells Lake, and that's been a great asset. We have that diversity of the Greenway trails for all different types of users, and we have the dirt trails, Dirt 66 up at Fellows Lake with the mountain bike trails, and we also have the Sac River trails that we maintain on the west side of Kansas. But with that, the Frisco Highline's a gravel trail, so we've got gravel, we've got technical mountain biking, we've got flowy mountain biking, and down at Two Rivers we've got a little more downhill biking. So we've got a great diversity from a regional perspective of making it a great place to live and have outdoor recreation and connecting to the beauty of the Ozarks.
Now, last time I looked, it seemed like the budget for the Greenways, maybe I should call it the operating budget, was about $500,000.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take.
Yeah. It kind of fluctuates and changes with certain grants that we get or donations. And
well, that's what I wanted to drill down a bit about. I know you get grants, but you have a pretty vibrant money-raising process through just members or people that want to contribute and fundraisers and so forth. Tell us, if you're going to break it out in big chunks, how much comes from one and how much comes from another, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say 50-60% is based on those donations and fundraising and philanthropic, the mission of the community believes in trails and they support Ozark Greenways, and we've been around for 30 plus years of that's a major chunk of it. We do have contracts with the city of Springfield and city utilities of managing some of that infrastructure and going after and being proactive and implementing the comprehensive plan. Those are smaller chunks, 30-40%. And like I said, it kind of fluctuates, depends on what we're doing. But we've got lots of private,
Yeah.
lots of private support, and some of the grants we have are more project oriented, where we're not billing operations. It's just a trail, so none of those costs goes towards staff. It's all.
How many
trail
staff members
construction.
are on Ozark Greenways?
We currently have 4, including myself. We have a soft surface trail coordinator who's dedicated to Fells Lake. We have a Frisco Highline manager dedicated to the Frisco, and they wear many hats. They're HR, they're accounting, and then we've got a conservation coordinator with our land trust and an office manager. So we also operate a land trust in Southwest Missouri of preserving and conserving land and trails and streams and protecting from a conservation standpoint.
Now tell me about your board. How many? It's a nonprofit board. How many people are on it?
I believe we have. This is a great question. I believe we have 12 right now.
And what are they, like 3-year terms?
3-year terms. Yep.
And then did they get renewed, or are you on for the 3 years and then you're
3
off?
years, and then you can renew again. And then there's some special circumstances if you're on a executive board or officer.
Are they all? I would expect, but you correct me if I'm wrong. Some come from the city and some from the county.
Yeah, we've got a diverse pool. If we have a contract with an organization such as City of Springfield, we'll have an ex officio with that, or with City Utilities, we'll have somebody representing that contract in that organization. I'm trying to think of where most are probably within Greene County and the City of Springfield.
I said in my introduction that long term you all would hope to add another 100 miles. Tell us where that is on the map.
Yeah, there's opportunities everywhere. It's connecting up to Fells Lake. It's connecting to Stratford. It's connecting the James River Greenway Trail east of 65 up to Sunshine, up to Battlefield, having a big loop around. It's connecting interior of Springfield, connecting Grant Avenue all the way north to Fulbright, connecting to the Frisco Highline. There's no connections or trails on the north side in any way, shape, or form right now besides around Doling Park. There's a Talmadge Trail, which is a very short piece. It's connecting out from Wilson's Creek, where we talked about earlier, South Creek from the Battlefield Mall, to Wilson's Creek at West Bypass, connecting down to Republic Road, and then getting to the Wilson's Creek National Battlefield in Republic and tying in the Schuler Creek Trail. It's the regional connections around the entire Ozarks down here. Maybe it's eventually going to Branson. Right now we're focused on connecting Springfield to those amenities, to the art museum, to the zoo, to schools and where people live, but also those regional connections of Bolivar, Willard, Stratford, Republic, Nixa, and Ozark with the Chadwick.
You mentioned earlier there's like a $25 million grant that, as I understand it, we were approved for, but then they wanted us to go back and tweak it in some fashion. But assuming that comes through, what will that money be used for?
So yeah, it's officially at $24.8 million to construct 3.14 miles of Greenway Trail and Streetscape Trail, and then there's some other infrastructure improvements. So to break this down quickly, it'll fund 3 segments. It'll fund from downtown Grant Avenue Parkway connecting down College to the Jordan Creek Greenway. We have a gap from Mount Vernon to downtown. It will fill that gap, providing connectivity under Kansas Expressway so you don't have to cross. It's eliminating a lot of at-grade crossings and providing complete cohesion. So that's a big gap. And so if we start from downtown, we take Jordan Creek down College, we get to Mount Vernon, we get down to Grand, and all of a sudden we're down at Ewing Park.
Okay.
And Ewing Park's at Scenic and Sunshine S. There's a gap between Nathaniel Green and Ewing. So then we'll connect south down Scenic with a 10-foot trail there, all the way to Nathaniel Green. Currently there's no way for anyone north of Sunshine to experience one of our regional parks and botanical centers. So that'll make that connection. Pausing back at Ewing, going west down the Wilson's Creek Trail there's no way for Wilson's Creek Hill to connect to Rutledge Wilson currently.
Right.
There's a gap up there. Most of that property is owned by the city or the county. It's heavily wooded. It follows Wilson's Creek. So that will go under West Bypass, connect up to Rutledge, and then connect all the way down to South Creek at that South Creek Wilson's Creek gap we talked about earlier. So with
It's not cheap to go under those highways,
no,
is it?
and that's where $25 million for 3.14 miles is going to, talking about placemaking, talk about enhancements. There's lots of pedestrian bridges that will have to be built crossing those, improving the streetscape of College, and implementing these long-range plans we've had on the books for 20 to 30 years. We've got an excellent chance to deliver that and deliver a high-end product for that $25 million. And we'll have about 27 miles of connected loop trails with just these small, very intentional laser-focused segments. There's a reason we focus on these segments, because it's the biggest bang for our buck, and it's been very difficult to to make these work, and that's why they're gaps, right?
Right, right. And I'm very excited about the whole idea of being able to ride 27 miles without having to come to a busy intersection.
Yeah, just that continuous loop of you're in the city, and then if you wanted to go downtown to Mothers or hop on the Grant Avenue Parkway, if you wanted to bike to Rutledge Wilson, I bike a lot as a commuter, and I bike on with vehicles on the road, and I'm a very confident biker. When I bike with my children, I do not feel that way. It is a panic attack. It is anxious. So having that alternative way that we can bike to Nat Green, I can bike to Rutledge Wilson, to not have that. It's an enjoyable, joyous experience where I'm encountering deer. I'm going by our streams, and
I get it.
yeah.
What about riding on city streets? So do you see, are more and more people riding bikes, or not really?
I see a lot of commuters, I see a lot of bikers, and I see a lot of our unhoused and impoverished folks that don't have access to a vehicle. I mean, there's different sects depending on what, you have the Lycra, or the people that are on the road bikes, and they're riding everywhere. We have our, younger generation of commuters riding on our streets, and then we've got our unhoused population and impoverished people.
Well, you're certainly seeing a lot more electric bikes and scooters, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, which is a blessing and a curse, right? That you get you get both. That you get the joy, and for some, you mentioned jogging. That's bad on the knees. That it makes it more accessible to people, and that you could do that entire 27 loop and have a smile on your face the whole time with that e-bike, or get down to Ozark for a cup of coffee with an old friend and be back for lunch. It makes it more accessible, and gives people the opportunity and the choice to get out there and go farther, and not just be solely recreational. To have that experience is a super beneficial thing, in my opinion.
Before I let you go, tell us about this fundraiser at Findlay, at the Findlay that's coming up.
Sure, we have our 27th annual fall party. So we've been at this for 27 years. This is the first one I'll be attending. It'll be at Findlay Farms, September 23rd from 6 to 9. It's our biggest annual fundraiser. And it's really a celebration. The word is fundraiser. We are raising money, but it's a celebration of everything we've talked about, of the Raise Grant, of the Chadwick, of that Wilson's Creek, South Creek gap, and the perseverance of everyone that's come before us, of, that's collectively as a community worked this far, that we can put some buttons on some of these.
Well, I've been to a couple of them. They're a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
I guess, are they all sold out?
Yes, we are, and it's been an interesting thing.
And so congratulations for
Yes,
that.
yeah, and I'm not a party planner, and I've said this pretty transparently, and it just shows, we are blessed as an organization and as a community. It's not an Ozark Greenways, that we believe in trails, and we want to see these connected. And it sold out so fast, wasn't even to put a blast, a social media blast. That's how we've got a lot of buy-in. So I need to maybe have another one, or meet out at the Mile 6 tap room for a beer or something, to have like the opportunity. I feel bad that we're sold out and then we can't have a bigger venue. Maybe we.
It's a nice problem to have.
It is a nice problem to have. We want to leave it open and make sure people have the chance to sign up. But it was it happened fast. It was open and closed.
Ben, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners that I haven't asked you about?
Yeah, I think it's that top 10 initiative in Ford SGF and the Vision 2020 and the Greenway plan from the 70s that trails are a priority for our community, and it's not, the Ozark Greenways is leading the way, but it's a multifaceted effort of communities being engaged and communities telling, council and advocating and just getting out there and riding and allocating and prioritizing funds to more human-centered design of more trails, more sidewalks, more connectivity, that I can go to the coffee shop with my kids, I can ride down to Ozark, and I could hit the trail on a recreational stroll as well, and having room for it all. We're blessed to be here in the Ozarks, and our system's growing, and we're glad
It's
to
a
be
great
part of it.
amenity. If people wanted to learn more, what should they do?
Yeah, ozarkgreenways.org is a great place to start. Following our social media or Facebook, shooting us an email if they wanted more information, or calling, or just stopping by. We're always looking for new donors, more investment, more members, more corporate sponsors, and we want to fulfill our mission of a community connected by trails, and it takes all of us to make that happen.
Ben Tegeler, thank you for being our guest today on In Our Town.
Thank you.